as a languishing stream, without a babble, without a dream, till I felt life within me surge and fill me with an urge to know my soul, to reach the goal, and to give my all to the ocean home. You changed my world the day you came into my life. Oh, keep me in the circle, in the close circle. Keep me in the circle of your love. I had wandered in a desolate land where hope would not grow, till the day you took my hand and you let me know of a love so tender, a love so true. Oh, Meher Baba, that love is you. You changed my world the day you came into my life. Oh, keep me in the circle, in the close circle. Keep me in the circle of your love. When I entered your realm, what peace I found. I knelt down and kissed the ground, where still are fresh the imprints of your feet. And I quenched my thirst with such water sweet, graced by your smile. Meher, how beautiful is this garden, where the earth and the air with your fragrance is laden. You changed my world the day you came into my life. Oh, keep me in the circle, in the close circle. Keep me in the circle of your love. You changed my world the day you came into my life. Oh, keep me in the circle, in the close circle. Keep me in the circle of your love.
Gee, Baba. So many beautiful images. It was hard to pick them. All right, Karen, you're up. Good morning. Good evening. Sorry, honey, you need to unmute still.
It's unmuted. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
just wanted to thank you for the most beautiful slideshow with touching songs and really stunning photos. Meheru Rustom Irani was born of royal Meher Baba lineage on October 2nd, 1927. She met Meher Baba while she was still in her mother's womb, and then shortly thereafter. Meheru was Mera's niece. Mera's mother, Franny, was Mera's sister. Her father, Rustom, was Adi K. Irani's brother and the eldest son of Baba's spiritual mother, Gulmai. Her grandfather, Kaikushru, owned Meherabad. Meheru's parents were engaged by Baba's instruction at Manzili Mean. The wedding was held in 1923. Her birth name was Meheru. Her mother, Franny, named her for her sister, Baba's Mera. Meher Baba gave her the name Meheru to distinguish her from Mera. Her family lived in the same compound as his women's ashram, which was located in Nasik, near the Godavari River. This was in the early 1930s. Baba would often spend the night at Meheru's house, and as a child, she was constantly in and around him and his women disciples. They stayed a few years. Baba visited often. Baba ate at Meheru's place. Her mother did the cooking. As soon as Meher Baba arrived, the children rushed to embrace him. She was one of 5 children, and they all wanted to be first. They could bow down to his feet, and Baba played with them. Once she got hit on the nose and lost blood. Baba always had sympathy, love, and concern for her. One time she had a quarrel with one of her brothers and was sulking and refused to eat. Baba fed her every morsel. And it was a little difficult for her mother in the sense that Baba would have the mandali have a 1-hour meditation, and it had to be 100% quiet. Her mother had to keep the children quiet for a whole hour. So she would feed them sugarcane juice. They would make flowers and other ways to spend the quiet hour together. And the Westerners were also there in Nasik. She remembers Norina, Nani, Jean Adriel, Rano, Kitty, Ruano. She said they had a lovely association with the Westerners during that time. For school holidays, they would stay at Kushru Quarters, now the Trust Compound, and it was a lively place. Sarosh stayed there with his family. Vilu's relatives came, so many children. They would visit Pimplegown Lake for swimming, and they would also go to Happy Valley. So it was a fun time. One year they stayed at Mehrabad. Baba's orders were not to cross the railway lines, so they never saw Upper Mehrabad that year. It was her first time seeing Mohammed the Must. To her, he was strange and intriguing, and she told him repeatedly to wipe his nose. Gustaji told her not to tell him that. In 1937, Baba's birthday was celebrated in Nasik. Grain bundles were made to be distributed to the poor. It was not a big birthday celebration, but she does remember a trained monkey who embraced Baba, which to me would be a child's remembrance. Or a teen at that point. In 1938, Baba's birthday was celebrated for the first time on a grand scale. Meheru's mother was called to come a week early to help with the arrangements. Meheru was determined to join. She was not happy about being left behind, and she remembers chasing the car as her mother left. When her mother got to Baba, the first thing he asked her was, "Why didn't you bring Meheru?" And for that particular birthday, the mother had made Meheru a very pretty dress, and she proudly showed the dress to Meher Baba. After 1938, she and her sister would attend boarding schools, and they would spend all their vacations with Baba wherever he was. In 1942, Meheru joined the Women Mandalis Ashram as a young teen. In 1942, Baba evidently plucked her out of raging Ganges River in the Himalayas, where she was drowning, where they were staying. In 1949, she was one of only 4 women to accompany Meher Baba on the new life. In 1952, she traveled to the West, USA, and Europe with Meher Baba, Mera, Mani, and Dr. Goher as the women. They stayed in the guest house on the Meher Center, After the car accident in Prague, Oklahoma, it was Meheru who placed Baba's head gently on her lap as he lay in the road on the side of the road after the car accident while they waited for help. She served Baba and Mera both, helping Mera with Baba's personal work in the garden with their many pets and with correspondence, sewing, and household arrangements. After Baba passed away in 1969, she continued to serve Mera until Mera's passing in 1989. In 1993, she visited the West. She was the guest speaker at the LA Sahavas, and she came to many areas throughout the US, including our area, the San Francisco Bay Area. Here's what Don Stevens wrote about Meheru on December 28, 2001. Meheru, a niece of Mera, and has been with Baba now for decades, always accompanying her, and whenever Mera went on trips with Baba. While she has been in the background during the lifetime of Mera, in recent times, she too has shown the strong intelligence and character that was so evident in Mera. She has been made the head of the Trust's archive activity and has done a superb job of organizing that complex and very sensitive work. Meheru wrote nursery rhymes in Meher Baba's time, children's book, and co-authored Tales of the New Life. Sheriar Books wrote of her, as good at flower arranging as she is with hammer and nails, tender-hearted, quick-witted, and adventurous, Meheru is a surprise and delight for visitors to the women's side of Meherazad. And her moving stories of Baba's love for Mera and Mera's love for Baba are unforgettable, providing a rare glimpse into the secluded world of his closest women disciples. As the last remaining women Mandali member, she cared for Meherazad and she shared her reminiscences of life with Meher Baba, Mera, and the women Mandali on the veranda with each of us. Meheru passed away at the age of 84 on April 21st, 2012. Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Beautiful, Karen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now I forgot one thing. If you guys, up on the top right of my screen, there's a little thing that says view. If you click in view, if you want to just see the speaker speaking, you can click on speaker. And then if you want to see who's here in the gallery, just click on gallery and you can see everybody, all your friends. Okay, I'm going to ask Kristen if she would like to speak. Hey, Baba.
Sure, Jai Baba. That was so lovely. Thank you, Karen. I loved what you said, and Ruth, beautiful what you made.
Thank you. I'll bring the pictures up if you like, whenever you're ready.
I think not just yet, okay? I'm going to actually read something because I'm very shy about public speaking. So I'll read a little bit and then we can show the pictures, and then I hope everyone else will share their stories. So Jai Baba, I can scarcely believe it's been 10 years since Meheru left. What a delight she was. She was all Baba's, but it's hard for me to know what to say about the deepest side of her. She was full of fun and adventure and mischief, and it's easier to talk about that. Last night, I was just remembering a silly detail, the cordless phone at Meherazad. In the early days, there were no phones, so to make a call, they had to go to the pumping station in Pimplegown. Later, there was a landline installed in Goher's clinic. Finally, there was a battery-powered cordless phone, something the size of a brick, or maybe a small loaf of bread with an antenna. So if one of the women wanted to make a call, we would fetch the phone, but then getting it to work was another story. Meheru's solution was to place the phone on a chair in the center of Mera's porch and then perform the following ritual. Meheru would lead us in chanting Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai as we gleefully circumambulated the phone 7 times. And sure enough, it seemed to work every time, at least for her. She got such a kick out of it. Meheru was so clever and agile and practical. Along with Rano, she was the carpenter and engineer for the women's side. In the back of Merazad, there are several sheds where Meheru kept bits of found treasure, and one for wood and one for iron and metal. I called them the Irani woodworks and the Irani ironworks. Meheru was a wizard at using planks and blocks of wood to balance things or make contraptions, sometimes held together with rope. She also traveled with her planks and blocks and ropes. So, for example, when the water was only on from 7 to 9 a.m. in Pune, we needed to fill many bottles of water for the day. A slow process if one had to stand there holding the bottles under the trickle. Meheru would rig up something with her trusty planks and blocks and string, which we then called the Irani waterworks, so that the filtered water could go right into the bottles without wasting a drop. All these and so many other skills must have been really useful in her life with Baba. Before we go too much further, I feel like I need to say that I'm not sure Meheru herself would want all the attention we're giving her. In fact, I know she never liked to be in the limelight. She would always point the focus back to Baba and Baba alone. She would say that without Baba, she's a complete zero. And if anyone ever became too reverential, Meheru was quick to say, "Take me right down off that pedestal." As the other Mandali passed on one by one, naturally we all missed them, but Meheru discouraged any special homage to her ashram sisters, other than Mera and Mani, of course. One incident stands out in my mind. It was someone's birthday, one of the women Mandali, and we wanted to garland her photo and bed. Meheru was a little taken aback. Later she said, "But we were the slogs." I think she had had the, to her, horrifying realization that she too could be garlanded after her demise. She did relent that day and joined us in offering a garland, but I think she wanted to draw a line both for us and for posterity. For me, it was a powerful statement and it stayed with me. We were the slogs. Baba alone is to be glorified. But being a slog for Baba is no small feat. All her life, Meheru served Baba and Mera happily behind the scenes. We can list a few of her duties, but there's so much more. She washed his clothes. She heated his bath water. She carried the buckets. She mixed them to just the right temperature. She assisted Mera her whole life. She was one of the women Baba chose to walk as his companion on the new life. She lived the complete life of complete obedience and surrender to him. Baba, Mera, and their ashram sisters were her world, and a magical world it was. For me, I first met Meheru and all the Mandali in January 73. It wasn't until much later that I had the glorious chance to spend extended time with her. Meheru was invited to the West several times, but she always declined. In 1991, she was invited again, and she again declined. But after a while, she felt Mera nudging her, and then she clearly heard Mera's voice speaking to her in Gujarati. If it will make so many people so happy, why not do it? Thus was hatched the 4-month trip in 1993, fondly referred to as globe-trotting for Baba. For Meheru, the only scary part about it was having to be in the limelight. Needless to say, for me, it was Baba's gift and one of the greatest privileges of my life that I was allowed to accompany her for the last leg of that trip, 5 or 6 weeks in Europe and back home to Merazad. Meheru touches me in so many ways. All she ever wanted was to be with Baba and Mara. When she did join Baba permanently, she never looked back. She actually never even had a chance to go home and pack up her things when Baba called her in December 1942, and it was many years before she even returned to Nasik. Meheru loved her family deeply and especially felt what her mother had to go through. Meheru's father and mother both longed to be with Baba, but their destiny was different. When Baba called Meheru, she surrendered it all to him, all of her family, all of those feelings and attachments, and she turned over to Baba. She turned it all over to Baba and went on her own path to him, and she never looked back. One of the most touching images for me, of course we have no photo, but one of the most touching images is of Meheru quietly making her way over to Baba, who was lying on the ground so badly injured after the 52 accident. She ever so gently lifted his head so that it would not be in the mud. Meheru herself had multiple injuries, including a broken wrist and several other fractures in both hands and elsewhere. Having broken my own wrist a few years back, I wonder how she even managed to do it. There's so much in that one simple act. Now, Ruth, if we could show the Nasik photo. This is a familiar one. Sorry. There, that one. It's a familiar photo, but Meheru very much liked the photo. This is taken in 1932 at Rustom and Freni's home in Nasik. It's the one they had before Baba established Meheru Retreat on Trimbak Road. This was at the income tax bungalow, and a professional photographer had been hired. 3 chairs were set up for Baba in the center, Rustom and Freni on either side, and the positions were all decided in advance with Melu and Falu, the older brothers, standing behind, and Nagu and Meheru sitting on each side with the parents. And Behram was supposed to be in the center at Baba's feet. Regardless of that plan, Meheru went ahead and she just plopped herself down at Baba's feet. She was told that was Behram's spot, and she moved next to her mother. But as soon as Behram sat down, or was put down at Baba's feet, he started wailing and he wouldn't stop. So Meheru leapt into action, something she's very good at, and picked him up and put him at their mother's feet. Then she rushed back to sit at Baba's feet herself. She did it so fast that she accidentally sat partly on Baba's foot. She used to say, "You had to be like lightning with Baba." Later on, when she'd see this photo, she was very pleased that she had taken action that day long ago. And the symbolism of it was definitely not wasted on her. After all, she was the one who wanted to be so close to Baba, to be at his feet. For of all the children, she was the one who chose to be with him and lived her whole life with him in his service. And I should also say that Jungo wasn't born yet, so that's why there are only 5 there. So there were 6 eventually. Okay, we could go to the adventures. But first, Ruth, could we go to the picture of Baba at Mahableshwar? Yes. I just wanted to show that one because that was taken by, I'm sure most of you know, but it was taken by Meheru's brother, Jungu, at Mahableshwar, and she especially loved that photo too. So then we could move on. Yeah, this one is of, sorry. This is by a photo by Glenn McGreeny. It's Mara and Meheru in the garden. Lovely shot. Just wanted to include it. It's so beautiful. Okay, and then maybe we could move on to, oh yes, Dana Ferry's picture of Meheru. Stunning. We could go to the, oh, okay, we could, yes, all lovely. Okay, now this is the beginning of a typically quintessentially Meheruvian adventure. So back in 1994, I know she had many adventures with Baba. In 1994, Meheru went on a visit to Nasik, and she wanted to try to find the cave where Baba had been in seclusion for 40 days back in 1920. She didn't really know where that cave was, and no one really did, apparently. No one left, no one who was left. We got a general sense of where it was and on that trip, and then planned to come back the next year to try to reach it. So yes, so before the return trip to try to get to this cave, which was extremely remote, Meheru decided that she needed to learn how to climb the rope ladder, because she seriously was thinking that she was going to rappel down the side of from the top of the mountain to the side, down the side of the cliff into this cave. So there were, love that picture. Anyway, she really practiced. We practiced for a month at least before going to Nasik. Okay, next slide. Yeah, there she is, all the way up. She was really incredibly agile. Okay, so here's the crew going in search of the cave in Nasik. It is at Borgad Mountain. We never actually reached it, but we did find it. And that's her brother, that's Meheru's brother, Falu, on the left, yeah. He helped to find it. He knew those mountains very well. So along on that trip were Jal and Dolly, Schreeder, Alan, Falu, and another day, Jungo, brother Jungo was with us, and Alan Wagner, yeah. Okay, great. So there's Meheru with Falu. That's the kind of terrain it was in. Okay, next. Yeah, so Meheru was out asking villagers about where this cave is. She wasn't afraid to get right in the action, as we know. Okay, go ahead. Right, so that's the mountain. That's Borgad Mountain in the background. Meheru she's about to look with a pair of binoculars to find the cave. Okay. All right, the cave, now we're on top of the mountain. Alan is pointing to the place where the cave is. This is where we were supposedly going to rappel down the mountain. Thank God, thank you, Baba, that never happened, because I can't imagine how we would have explained that to anyone. Okay. All right, then this is in search of, we never did find the cave, but I mean, we found it, but we could not possibly have gotten to it. This is in Mount Abu in search of yet another cave where Baba had worked. And Meheru had an idea where it was, but we never actually found that one either. So I guess Baba didn't want them to be discovered. Next one. Yes, looking out for the cave. Okay. Oh yeah, this is in Mount Abu. There's Heather. This is a lovely spot where Meheru enjoyed staying very much. Okay. Love that one. Paul Kumar's picture of Meheru at the opening of the Pilgrim Center. Next. Yes, this is Mount Abu. You can move pretty quickly here. Thank you. Yeah, Search of Cave. I love that one. That's Meheru's 80th birthday. Thought it was so sweet of Heather with Meheru. Okay, that was the little deer, right? And there's Dana out on the evening walk with Meheru. Maybe Dana can say more about these things. Yeah. Same walk. There we are on yet another adventure with Meheru. Laurel McGreeny. Okay, and Devana. No need to identify Casey, I don't think, but anyway, yes, Meheru loved to go up the hill, and she would go, she used to go every morning up the hill for many years. The last time I went all the way up the hill with her was when Minu died, and I can't remember what year that was, but I think it may have been 2003. Meheru wanted to go up to the top of the hill and offer flowers to Baba for Minu. I don't know if she ever went up after that. I don't think so. Okay. And there she is with a beloved pet, Rolly, and beloved pet, Tipu, who was the singing dog who sang along to the arti every night as best he could. Okay. And there's Meheru at Pumpkin House. Dara and Amrit kindly offered Meheru the use of Pumpkin House whenever she needed to be in Pune. And she had regular appointments, medical appointments there. So in the last, I don't know, 12 years or so, she stayed there many times. Along with the appreciation of how sacred the place was and what Baba had undergone there, she felt entirely at home and comfortable at Pumpkin House. She loved going just across the alley to Baba House and visiting with Pireen Mai and Gulnar, Jungu, and all of Baba's family. She would swing right into the spirit of the neighborhood too, what's called the camp, and visit. She loved visiting the little shops and picking up brun bread at Husseini's bakery, and generally just living it like a local. Even more than going to the real shops, Meheru always loved the pavement stalls, and she relished driving a hard bargain. There was the excitement of discovery of treasure in those unlikely spots, and she had a very good eye for it. So you could go to the next one, please, Ruth. Okay, so there's one in front of Pumpkin House, but I'll talk about this now that we're here. This is Meheru with Nagu, her sister Nagu, and her sister-in-law, Bairam's widow, Vera, in Pune. I liked it because they all look so happy. Okay, next. Okay, so that's a typical evening walk around Meherazad, and Meheru stopping by to see her old friend and ashram brother Merwan through his window. That's actually one of the last pictures I took of Meheru. Oh, okay. I like that one of us together. Meheru garlanding in Baba's cabin on the hill, offering a flower. Oh, yes. Baba's birthday morning. It's very early. Meheru's lighting the candle by his bed. I don't know if we could get back to, I love that photo. I don't know if we could get back to the picture of it taken in the alley in front of Pumpkin House.
You know, I'm not sure that I have it
Oh,
in
okay.
this. Yeah, sorry. I don't know that it's in here. I must
Okay.
have missed it somehow. Sorry,
Okay,
Christine.
easily. I understand with all the chaos of the photos. I wonder if I could look for it. I could screen share it. Okay,
Yeah.
well, let's,
You can screen share it. We'll finish these and then you can screen share.
okay. I think that might have been one of Dana's. That's one of Glenn's, I believe. Beautiful ones. Mostly, I think Glenn took these. Oh, wow, with Naja.
Okay, I'll give you a moment here for screen sharing.
Maybe someone else wants to.
Do you
there
want to
was
just show,
something-
you want to show that picture? I can,
Yeah, I have to find it, though.
okay.
Sorry.
No, don't worry. While you're looking, I see Rainey has a
Yes.
hand. Yeah. Rainey, do you want to speak? Jai Baba. Go ahead, Rainey.
I thought I was in a long line. So I didn't realize no one else had their hand up.
It's okay. You have to move up a little closer to the speaker.
Sorry, this computer doesn't have a good microphone, but I think I'd rather hear from Dana first.
We can do that too. We'll see if Dana's ready. She's
I don't know if I'm ready, but I'll try.
okay. Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba. Can you hear and see me okay?
Yes, ma'am, we sure can.
Well, so much wonderful, so many beautiful things have been said and shown, but seeing all these beautiful photographs of Meheru reminded me of one little incident with her where we were looking at photographs and she came across a particularly beautiful picture of herself in the past. And she looked at it and she said, "Oh, it's nice to see how one looked," and then turned the page, just as if she were looking at a picture of someone else, totally detached. And I thought, wow, that's how it should be. She used to quote this Kabir line, see if I have it here. This body in which we are to which we are attached is a house of clay. And she was talking about a friend of hers and ours at one point who was going through quite an intensive illness. And she said, she's becoming detached from the body now. She's learning that detachment. I wasn't going to start out saying these things, but the pictures just made me remember that incident with the picture. Obviously, what's already been said about her dedication and total focus on Baba and Mara is so true. And she also was a master of multitasking. She was so poised, she could sit on the veranda. This person who had kept herself in the background all these years, who was now pushed to the fore by becoming the last one. She could be greeting a newcomer, telling the stories about the new life, teaching me to, or somebody to thread a garland, sending someone inside for buttons for the children, doing all these things simultaneously without missing a beat. I mean, she would just interrupt herself for 1 minute to do this next thing and go right back to where she was. She was so focused. And man, was that something she tried to teach. And she succeeded with some people. I can't say she succeeded with me, but she tried. She tried. There's a beautiful story about her, one of her trips in Myrtle Beach, I guess it was in '93. I had invited a friend to come and hear her talk on the center, a person who was not a Baba lover, but who I'd been working in the schools with on the Peace Wall project. And she came. She was a Catholic. And she was a Catholic who went to Mass multiple times a week. She would go to Mass on Wednesday nights and she would go on other nights. And this particular night, instead of going to the Mass, she came to hear Meheru at my invitation. And afterward, and Meheru was talking about the new life. And it was a very Spartan description of the new life that particular night. Maybe it always was, but that night, it struck me as incredibly Spartan. And I was wondering how my friend was taking it all in. And afterwards, she said, I realized that's the real thing she's talking about. That's what I was looking for in the Mass that isn't there. She has the real thing. And she started saving up her money from that moment on and came to India with me a year later and fell heavily for Baba through that, through Meheru. And she's still with Baba. Let's see what else. Oh, her adventurous spirit. I don't know if Kristen was there. I wasn't, but I heard about somebody arranged for her to go to Tippi Hedren's tiger retreat in California. And so this was something that Meheru could not miss. And I don't know all the adventures that happened there, but it seemed like just a typical thing that Meheru would have to go to a tiger retreat. Do you know anything? Maybe Kristen can talk some more about that.
I wasn't there. I wasn't with her then.
Yeah. Well, you've already mentioned her painstaking care of Baba's things, of Mara's way of doing things. She continued to do that. Her emphasis on cleanliness and her incredible intelligence. Well, there are just so many things. I'll let somebody else jump in now because I think I've said enough for the moment.
Very beautiful, Dana.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You brought out other facets. Thank you so much. Rainey, do you want to jump in now? Oh, there you are. Sorry.
Double unmute.
Yes.
I was thinking of when we got to India in '73, I was very nervous. And in those days, very young married person to somebody very spiritual. And so when we finally got to Marazad after spending time in Pune and sort of very quickly, somehow in the 2 days in Pune, acclimating to the Parsi, who we knew nothing about. We knew a bit about India, only 11 hours away from India, but the Parsi, we knew nothing about Parsis and Iranis. So being at Bindra House, one was immersed, and staying at Jimmy Lodge and other places in the Parsi areas. We formerly also stayed at Dada through Havovi and our partner in crime, in business, Jarl and Dolly, through Meher Handcrafts. Many of us worked for Meher Handcrafts, which was one of the key donors to the trust in those days. We all worked for a small amount of money in shared houses, and all of the money we made through our Indian import, huge Australian company, went to India. So by the time we got to Marazad, we stayed at the Ashoka. It seemed quite luxurious in those days. Imagine. And we were all quite nervous because Francis had made us nervous that we weren't to say anything and we weren't to this and we weren't to that, you know, and bother them. We weren't to bother them. That was the main thing. So when we didn't know there was a men's side and a women's side, but Mani and some of the women greeted us. But when we got around to the women's side, here was this tomboy, handsome tomboy, playing some game with a sort of dreidel-like thing, you know. She was playing this game with this little top and then suddenly straightened up and was behind Mera after that. And but I couldn't take my eyes off her rare beauty. I had never ever seen anything like anyone that looked like her before in my life. And so she stuck in my mind, even though I could see she was always in the background. And so over the years, when I went back every year, every January was my habit, and I focused more and more on her and realized that if you sat with Meheru, you got to see everything, because she didn't want to miss anything in case Mera needed something, or some name was missing, or a card was needed, or something was needed. One sort of learned about true invisible service by being around Meheru. She didn't practice being invisible. She just was. Because she was so good looking, she wasn't really. But I thought of some, mostly around her, I would focus and get confidence from the crusty stories, the clarification of, this is not divine stuff, this is not worship, this is not devotion, this is a practical matter around here to keep this rolling, you know, that type of thinking, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And a lot of, she would nudge Mera into asking me particularly about practical things in my life, because I could go into way too much detail, as we know, about memory, archiving, and practical things. So I thought I'd say a few funny practical and one naughty story. The one naughty story was, there was a pair of women that would come all done up to the nines in jewels and sort of plastic shower chemises in royal blue with lolly pink scarves and dramatic hair and whatever. And it turned out, as I sort of watched them, I realized they're Westerners, these two women. They're not Indians at all. And they profess to be a princess and the princess's mother. And they would speak in sort of broken Urdu / I didn't know Hindi then, / something or other. And I could see Mera and Meheru's eyes widening, and Mani would come round for entertainment as much as anything, or to keep an eye on them. And so one time, one of them was wafting on elaborately, and they stepped off the porch, and Meheru leaned over to me and she said, "If there's a princess on this porch, it happens to be me." Which really made me laugh. It was sort of in the days when people would accept Oscars and say, "I really deserve this." It was when women were sort of coming out. So I totally appreciated this moment of Meheru's admitting and saying, "I'm the princess here, not these two gallivanting lasses," you know. One time we went to Nashik, I think it was like 96, no, it must have been 97, something like that. On a trip. I'd never been there before. Absolutely exquisite place, fruit trees, so on. And we stayed for 2 days. But when we got back, and I took, as I always do, I took a lot of photographs. When we got back, Meheru wanted private time to go through every single photo and hundreds of questions, you know, because I was observant and fascinated by the fact that when we got there, Django was watching videos of Erich. This surprised her pleasantly. and all about the house and the detail and the houses on the property and the stories they told us. I mean, the detail she wanted to know was flabbergasting. And at the end of it, she said, you know, my mother was completely misunderstood. My mother was an incredibly spiritual woman, and she was so misunderstood. And I'm going to clarify that. And then I saw that video that she made through the Brustmans, where she definitely clarified who her mother was and what her mother was like and how incredibly spiritual she was. She was also very thrilled, as Mara was, that I had named my daughter after her sister and Barbara's sister, the two Frainies. The other thing I thought of was when I broke my arm at the Samadhi in 2009, she got completely distressed and involved in this situation. And it caused Casey to go into, well, I know all about this. My dad's a surgeon and he's a bone surgeon. And I know every doctor in Oakland and whatever. Well, get on the phone, says Meheru. So there they are on the phone, on the porch at Meherazad, organizing my surgery when I get back from my broken arm. Can you imagine? And so Casey, get the best one, says Meheru, the best doctor. It's her right arm. And they found the best doctor in the whole land at Kaiser in Oakland from the porch in Meherazad within 10 days of when I finally got back to have my surgery. I mean, a more practical, amazing woman. And yet that powerful, invisible spirituality all the time. Jai Baba.
So beautiful. Thank you, Rainey. That was beautiful. Well, I just want to remind people that you can raise your hand digitally. And again, I'll put it in the chat in case you need a reminder on how to do it. And Karen has a message from Divana that she'd like to read. So maybe this is a good time. Jai Baba.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so I'm just going to read something that Divana sent for this morning. So many stories, so many wonderful moments, impossible to know where to start or what to choose that might be meaningful for others, those who met and knew Meheru as well as those who did not. But I will say that I have always thought that perhaps Meheru must have been one of Muhammad's close disciple warriors when he came as the avatar. Why? Because she had those qualities of a brave warrior. I mean, in the real sense of what is needed to win the true battle of so many lifetimes. And Baba obviously gave them to her from the start so that she would be able to serve him till the end. I remember Meheru telling me one quiet afternoon that before Baba headed off into the new life, he had a special meeting in Mehrabad where he had called his close women Mandali to attend, both from Mehrabad and of course Meherazad. Baba sat on Mera's bed in the East Room and told them that he would be setting off on this new phase of his work called the New Life. Only a few women would be chosen to accompany him, but most important for the work was that each of them would promise to obey him, no matter what. To emphasize this point, he began asking each of the women a question, starting with Mera. Baba said, if I asked you to wash men's clothes, would you do it? Mera replied, yes, Baba. Next was Mani. Will you obey me 100%? Yes, Baba. Baba went round the room this way. Meheru told me, remarking to one of the women, if I tell you to marry a sweeper, will you obey me? Meheru said that the atmosphere was extremely tense. Mind you, Meheru was very young, the youngest there at the time. She said to herself, don't think, Don't question. Whatever he asks, just say yes. I have remembered that and have thought that it exemplifies her life with Baba. For in order to stay with the Lord of Lords, we have to put aside logic, put aside our personal wants and desires, be willing to put our head on the sword's edge of his wish for us. That indeed is being a warrior of the highest order. And Meheru was that. She was also lots of fun, very competent at whatever she did, a natural athlete, a handyman supreme, had a wonderful wit, and was a talented writer, especially for poetry, in spite of the fact that she never studied past the junior Cambridge exam, which is about our 9th grade. She went to the ashram. She was absolutely fearless, which sometimes gave all of us a fright, and she loved a good adventure. She was very soft-hearted when it came to animals, Baba's pets, of course, but also the strays who would end up at Meherazad dogs, because once an animal found its way to Meherazad, Meheru would feed it, and eventually the stray would be adopted. Skipping ahead many years, one evening Meheru was just finishing washing up and was sitting on the stone parapet that runs the length of the outside veranda behind Baba's dining room. I went up to her, and remembering it was the first day of the new life, I happened to ask her, Meheru, what did you like best about the new life? She paused and looked at me directly, no glimmer of a smile on her lips, but a spirited single-mindedness that reflected what unique, unspoken memories were going through her mind. The best part of the new life was when it was over. I shall never forget that evening, because her answer was also a glimpse of her absolute surrender to him. There were untold hardships in the new life. It wasn't easy for her, but the determination to be with him wherever he went and do whatever was required was her heart's desire. Saying yes had made it all possible. Jai Baba, yours lovingly from Devana.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Jay Baba, the warrior. I can see that. That was so beautiful. Thank you for reading, Karen, and thank you, Devana, for sending that. Just beautiful. Jay Baba. Laura, are you ready?
Oh, hi.
Jay Baba.
I'm sorry, the angle of the anyway, you don't want to see me.
Yes, we do.
This is enough, believe me. I don't have anything deep or I'll just tell a funny story. Which I wrote up this story for the Love Street Lampo something, and never got a response. So I figure none of you have read it, so that's good. Anyway, now I have to find this. Meheru is just like all the other Mandali, excuse me, loved Kabir couplets, and Baba loved them, and I think many people in India actually love these Kabir couplets, two-liners that are really fun and succinct. Excuse me. And one of the ones I remember Meheru would quote, and now I have to go find it because I just found it on the internet, believe it or not. Darn it.
Take your time.
It's a little couplet. Here we go. Here's what I found in the Jo toko canta buve, tahi tu buve pul. Toko pulko pulhe, Kanta Tirsul. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. But I always liked that Jotoko. I had it in my head as Jotoko Tombo something. But anyway, that Jotoko thing. And what that means is, wait, I have to come back here. Okay. Oh gosh. What it means is, if somebody gives you a thorn, give them back a flower. You will receive a flower and the thorn will turn back on them. That's the way, the general translation that I remember Meheru and the other Mandali giving. Anyway, I was staying at Mariside once, and one of the duties I had, a very pleasant duty, was to gather flowers and roses in the late afternoon and go into Baba's room and set them out on that sort of dresser that's when you first walk in. Anyway, it's there against the wall, and you put out the roses and the flowers, and Mani would go, and then you'd leave, and then Mani went in and she put fresh flowers in Baba's bedroom. She'd offer them, and before Arti. And of course, with the roses, and this was from the garden at Marizad Gardens, I should say, you had to remove all the thorns first. Okay, so I did that. And then after Mani did the flowers and it was time for Arti, the women there then, this was after Mara had passed away, would go, and then the Western, like Shelley and Devana, Casey wasn't there, I was her temp, would go in and get ready for Arti. So I walked, I took off my shoes and I walked into the room because it was a beautiful time of day. And there's Meheru standing in her place, which is right by that dresser where that big plexiglass thing of Baba's hair is. And she had a very unhappy expression on her face. I mean, a frown. Mergie? That was my nickname. Still is. Mergie? I went, yeah, because I don't know if Dana and Kristen had this experience, but I found that, every 5 minutes I was doing something wrong. Not intentionally, but I was always did something wrong and very often being called out on it every time. So I go in, Mergie, and that real unhappy look on Meheru's face. I said, yeah, huh? And she points down to her foot. Of course, she's barefoot. And there's a thorn, a rose thorn in her toe. Oh my God, I must have dropped a thorn. How did this happen? You tried to be so careful. And she had kept that thorn in her toe until I came into the room. And did I pluck the thorn out? Did she? I don't remember. But I just looked at her and I said, Jotoko Tombo Toko. And she just started laughing. She burst out and she gave me a good whack on the shoulder. And that was the end of that. So that was a nice moment with Meheru. I mean, fortunately, I had the good sense to turn it around, or Baba helped me. I would say Baba helped me in that situation. Meheru had that thing where she could be quite critical, or I don't know what you'd say. I mean, in the house type of thing. But then she was always pretty quick to change the mood, whatever. and Glenn would do a lot of work for her, you know, setting up decorations for Baba's birthday or Christmas or something like that. It always got a little wild and woolly, and there were, you know, words exchanged and things like that because of the heat of the moment, of course, of trying to get everything right. And well, anyway, and but then at the end of it all, she'd always come out with a little piece of cake or a little cup of Tulsi tea, or, you know, a nice little peace offering, and it was always wonderful. And I love Meheru, and really miss her. That's it for now. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Laurel. One of the women just asked if you would repeat the piece about the rose and or the flower and the thorn.
You mean the poem?
Yes, please. The poem from the beginning.
Now you have to understand the pronunciation is pretty pathetic, and I don't think I'm getting it right. But let me go back to wherever I found it. Oh, holy cow! Oh my God. Okay. Jotoko kante buve, tahitu buve pul. Toko pulko pulhe, kanta ko tirsul. Okay, if that helps, I hope so. And what it meant is, roughly, if somebody gives you a thorn, you give him a flower. You'll get back a flower, and the thorn will go back to him, or something. Kabir.
Laurel, is that what you said to Meheru then when she had the thorn in her foot?
Well, I started because I don't really know. I just said Joe Toko, and she knew exactly from Joe Toko because it's you know, and she went ah, gave me a good one on the shoulder, and that was the end of that one.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Beautiful. Thank you. Viola, are you ready?
Jai Baba. And it was so lovely to see the beautiful slideshow, and thank you for putting that together, and Kristen, to hear your memories, and sorry, I'm sort of blanking. It happens when I'm in front of people. So I tried some on Zoom. So I tried to mention, think of a few things, or things jump to my mind. The generosity that was shown in mentioning Meheru's taking in and caring for animals, wounded and otherwise. And I felt in certain ways she took me into, and I just wanted to give an example, both of her generosity that I experienced many, and of her supporting somebody else's adventurous moments. And there was a period I was helping in Marazad with Arnavas and staying the night. And I had a job during the day of massaging different ones. And this one day, it hadn't been going very well. I was very sort of discouraged and downhearted, and just maybe before lunch, it was morning, I can't remember, directly after tea, something, oh, afternoon, I think, when the newspaper would be read, I found my way to the porch. I think I was just hanging, and Meheru saw me, and she come up and she said, massage my hand. So I massaged her hand, and then somebody else came up who I think maybe she had formerly massaged Meheru's hand and maybe didn't feel great seeing me do it. So Meheru turned to her and said, "Here," massage my other hand. And I remember that moment. And another moment, I am in many ways a little bit younger and slower to coming to things than people in certain arenas. And that I had the opportunity, having stayed late at Meheru, it was dusk, just before dusk. And I had my bicycle at the trust compound, and I was offered the ride on the back of a motor scooter to the trust compound, which I took because I love myself adventure. And the older girls around had arranged for me to go in a rickshaw, and they heard I had another plan. They weren't liking it. We were all on the porch, and Meheru, "Oh, no, no, no. Viola can go on the motor scooter." And I thought, oh, there she is, supporting a little bit of adventure and upholding adventurous spirit. The older girls were probably in many ways quite right. As before reaching Meheru, I was getting a little scared, but anyway, Meheru was to keep the birds quiet even when Baba was in seclusion. And one nap time I was massaging her, and crows were cawing. And it was lovely because being around Meheru, people who spent much more time with her than I, can more clearly say how it was like going back and experiencing something of life with the physical life with Baba. So she sent me out to quiet the crows. So I got a little chance of experiencing that kind of thing. Anyway, these are just a few memories. Anyway, I won't go further because I tend to pause a lot. She was such a friend, and the first person I ever saw at Meheru that wasn't one of us was Meheru. And she was coming out of the house. I was at a great distance, and I never saw anyone so beautiful until the next person came out of the house. And of course, that was Meheru. And truly, in the introduction, that she is royalty in Baba's court. Rustom and Frani's daughter. And she, just last thing, my mother appreciated beauty a great deal, and one time saw Meheru standing at the gate. It must have been with Rowley, and her regalness and her beauty was something that my mom shared with me once of her experience of seeing Meheru. And of course, Meheru said of my mom, who had met Mara and Meheru and the others in the guest house in 52, she said, oh, they were all falling down, fainting and weeping. And this is of the Western women, dancer women, with my mom and Myrna and a few others. So, okay, Jai Baba, so grateful for your shares, everyone, and so deeply grateful to Baba that we got to experience something of life with him through Mara and Meheru and all the others. Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Viola. Oh, thank you so much. That was beautiful. All right, Cindy. Jai Baba, thank you for By Your Side. What a song. Just for me, it just personified Meheru, and I'm so grateful.
Meheru liked that song, and she requested it a few times, even though I later wrote a couple of songs directly for her. But anyway, let's see. Well, what I was going to do is tell the story that's already been told, the one that Karen said, Devana had said, and this is the way I remember now. This is something Meheru may have said many times, for all I know. I don't know, but I happened to be there on the porch one day, and a very sweet, sort of new Baba lover woman said, "Oh, Meheru, you must have such wonderful memories of the new life. Can you tell us what was the best?" She said, "When it was over." She was like that. She just said whatever she wanted to say, she said. And I'm not going to really talk much, but I learned a lot from her. I learned so much from her, and I'm incredibly grateful to her for getting me out to Marizad to stay and help. And that was just great. Something very unexpected, because most people did this when they were 30 or whatever, maybe even sooner. And I was really late, but it was just fabulous. And I thank Baba for that all the time. And I thank Meheru for making it happen. And one time, this is not particularly related, but well, two things. One, I remember that she told, one day there were just the two of us, I guess it was afternoon or something, and we were sitting on the porch. And I told her some of my big regrets with Baba, how I felt I had missed the boat and this and that. And she said, regrets are good. Regrets are good because you won't make the same mistake next time. And another time, and I've traveled a lot in my life. And I asked her, I said, Meheru, what do you think all this karma I have is running around the world? And she said, well, I think maybe you're preparing to be with Baba next time. And I really liked that. I thought, oh, that's great. But this one was one that really stands out in my mind. I was sitting next to her at Christmas or Diwali or some occasion when there were maybe 500 people, hundreds and hundreds of people, mostly Indians. And one of the things they want to do is sometimes bow down to her feet. She would be seated at the edge of the veranda so that people did not come on the veranda. They would just greet her from below. And so they couldn't hug her or do any of this stuff. And one very busy day, I was sitting next to her and we were really having a good time. We were just sort of cracking jokes, and she was doing her job of greeting everybody. But we were just having fun. And then I noticed, I said, Meheru, you're saying Baba bless you to a lot of people. Why don't you ever say that to me? And I was just joking around, and she looked at me very seriously and she said, my dear, you have already been blessed. And I went, oh, wow. Anyway, Jai Baba, and it's so good to see everybody. And one thing I noticed is most of us are now wearing glasses. All I know so many people that I've known for at least 40 years, sometimes more, and we're all wearing glasses. It's interesting. So Jai Baba, and it's great to see everybody, and I'm really enjoying listening to everyone.
Jai Baba, Cindy.
Jai Baba, thank you.
So great to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you for the beautiful stories too. Wow. Meheru Baba. Kathy and Tom, are you ready for us? I know you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Tom has a wonderful remembrance from the East-West gathering. Mm-hmm. So would you like to?
And we were gathered behind Guru Prasad at one particular day. And I'll read this. An experience occurred for me which is uniquely memorable.
Want me to hold it up here? Can you see it?
No.
Okay.
It happened shortly before or after lunchtime on the second or third day of the gathering. We, the Westerners, had all come together on a wide lawn just behind the villa and were facing Meheru Baba, who sat upon a modest platform with his interpreter next to him, and with three of his close women mandali, Mani, Meheru, and Arnavas, on his right side, next to him. All of us attending sat upon the lawn. I was fortunate to be situated quite close to the platform. This gave me the opportunity to contemplate Baba as well as each of those near him. Shortly before the occasion began to formulate itself, I found myself especially preoccupied with what I determined was such a special beauty in the observation of Meheru's facial appearance. I thought to myself, how uniquely beautiful Meheru is. At the exact instant that this reality took hold of me, Baba put his entire focus upon me and nodded his head with such an agreeable smile.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what did you want me to say?
That was that beautiful Baba.
Yeah, it was quite amazing.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
I could see it. Thank you so much.
So memorable.
Hey, Baba.
Jai Baba.
Kathy?
Yes. One of my strongest memories was a day in Marizad when one of those stray puppies that have been mentioned by different of the women talking this morning, a stray puppy had wandered in to Marizad, and all at once this tiny little scraggly creature had an epileptic seizure, and Meheru, who had already become quite attached to this little stray, rushed to get Goher, who then brought some injection to try to save the puppy. And as Meheru had called, and then Goher came rushing. Goher was very she was having a hard time trying to figure out how much of this pharmaceutical to give this little puppy, because
how was she giving it?
As an injection.
Oh, I see.
And the little puppy was having this seizure and
Wiggling.
Yeah, well, having an epileptic seizure.
Oh, I see.
And so the little puppy was, in distress, and Goher couldn't figure out how much by weight, what was the weight of this puppy. So a certain amount of this was injected. And the long and the short of this story was that the little puppy did pass away, and we all were standing around in sort of a traumatic state. And it was so touching, because I'll never forget Meheru, who had, you could tell, become already very attached, and her heart was going out to this little stray. Yeah, Meheru just looked at all of us and sort of looked far away and said, Baba, you bring us these creatures and these beloved gifts, and then sometimes you take them away. And that, she was like talking directly to Baba about it, and said, Baba, this is such a dilemma, because you give us these little creatures to love, and then sometimes you take them away. And it was like she was trying to come to terms with that part of his creation, that, you know, he gives us these creatures to love and then they have to go. And it was just so touching, and something that just I'll never forget, because it was just her dilemma at that moment, and her talking to Baba is, you know, he was right there with her at that moment as she was going through this, trying to detach herself from this little stray who had just flown off to Baba. So that was
in just
Mhm.
recalling my experience with seeing
Meheru.
Meheru.
Mm.
When I had that experience of observing her beauty, did I comment on what Baba said in
Yes,
my mind?
yes. That Baba looked directly at you and
Nodded his head in agreement. Yes, she is uniquely, she is especially beautiful.
And one final thought was a poem I came across that I set to music that I'd like to read, that Meheru had written. And I was able to sing it to her on her birthday once in Meherizad. My joy, my hunger, my shelter, my friend, my food for the journey, my journey's end. My joy, my hunger, my shelter, my friend, my food for the journey, my journey's end. Beautiful words from Meheru. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Kathy and Tom. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Tom. That was a beautiful story.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yes, I can see Baba nodding. Kathy, so beautiful, that poem. Grateful to you both.
Thank you, Meheru, for what you've given all of us.
There's no need to say.
No, just, okay.
No need
No,
to send me any money.
Are you sure, Tom? I mean, all right.
All right, I'll leave it up to you.
That's the best.
Okay.
Jai Baba, you too.
Jai Baba.
Louise? Jai Baba. You there?
Just a second.
Okay, take your time, honey.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Okay.
Just
Great.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. So the first thing that occurs to me to say is that once I was sitting on the porch and Mara was a couple of chairs over to my left. Meheru was sitting right to my right. And there was a new man who was being introduced to Mara. And he was standing there. And I can't remember if Mara was standing or sitting, but I think she was standing. Anyway, he was being introduced to her. And then he started to move toward her like he was going to embrace her. And then instantly, he stopped on a dime. He just stopped. So, quietly stopped. And I looked up, and Meheru she had like lightning moved from sitting next to me. She was standing behind him and had just a pinch of the cloth of the back of his shirt between her thumb and forefinger and was just pulling back a little on it. So subtle. And he completely got it. I mean, I don't know if he got that, we shouldn't touch Mara. I don't know what exactly he got, but he stopped and just said goodbye to her. And I was so struck with the speed and the skill and the subtlety with which she did that. And also the way she did that just saved him so much embarrassment, you know. So anyway, that was very impressive to me. And another time, kind of on the same topic, we were there one year, and my son, I guess he was about 8, and there was a group of boys that were visiting at that time. And so we went to Meheru one day, and Meheru gathered all these young boys. They were all like 8, 9, maybe 10, around that age. And she had them make a garland. She got them together for them to all make a garland for Meheru. And they made this garland for Meheru, and they put it on her bed. They just touching her bed, you know, leaning, just completely feeling free, because of course, when they would get a little older, they, you know, the men didn't touch Meheru's bed. You know, it was so kind of her to do that for them. I have a picture. Here's, I don't know if you can see it. Anyway, there's one picture of them, and then here's just another picture. And let's see what else. Oh, well, in 07 and 08, I stayed at Meheru to be with Arnavas, you know, for a few weeks each year. And when I first got there, one of the women residents who lived there, I mean, this was a big deal, apparently, inviting these women to come and sleep in Meheru, live there, to help out with Arnavas. And it wasn't something that, and Meheru, of course, made the final decision on that, to do that. But it wasn't something that they were accustomed to doing, kind of inviting people to stay there. So anyway, the first night that I was there, one of the women residents pulled me aside, and she said, the best thing to do is to just be here, she said, but be invisible. So I thought, okay, you know, I'll just be invisible. So I went on like this for, you know, a week or two. And finally, I realized I think maybe I actually even talked to maybe somebody about this. And I realized I was completely ignoring Meheru, with whom I had a great connection, you know, before, but I was wanting, so I finally got it that I was doing that. So in the morning, well, she was fixing the flowers in the dining room in the morning one day, and I went in and I said, Meheru, I'm so sorry. I've been, you know, just completely kind of rudely ignoring you, and it's because I haven't wanted to be a pest. And she turned to me and she said, oh, I know how to handle pests. And I thought, yep, that's right. That's why I don't want to be a pest. But anyway, so also she would speak very kind of frankly and bluntly. And, you know, just one time at lunch, I referred to Baba's mother as Shireen, and Meheru just looked at me and she said, we would never have called her Shireen. We called her Shireen Mai. And it was just like, absolutely. But, you know, and, you know, several little things like that she said to me, but there was never any sting with it. And, you know, it's like somebody said earlier, she would just move on with her. Yeah, I never felt, it was noteworthy, direct, firm, strong frankness, and how there wasn't anything that lingered with it. So let's see. Another thing she told me was that Baba didn't like people to step on a threshold. I mean, I knew the threshold for the samadhi, but this was any threshold. So in the house, I don't remember, maybe when I walked in, I had stepped on the threshold of the door going into the house. She told me Baba didn't like that, for anybody to step on any threshold. And even she said at one place they stayed, there was a hallway up to Baba's room. And she said he didn't even like us to stand in that hallway. Moving through it, fine, but he didn't like us to stand in that hallway. Let's see. She said to me, when I was there, the next time I was there after Meheru had died, Meheru said to me, when Meheru died, she felt a little bit the way Meheru felt Baba died, that Meheru felt that way when Meheru died. And she gave me this picture of Meheru. I just hold it up. And she said to me, never forget that smile. I guess I'll stop there.
So beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, I had also heard Baba said, don't stand in the doorway, come in or go out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Hey, Baba.
Hey, Baba.
Phew. I heard this morning, I heard a song by Eric Clapton called Holy Mother. I just thought it was so beautiful a day to hear that. And I think Pavarotti sang with him. It was beautiful. Holy Mother. Oh, Wendy just got up. Are you ready for us, Wendy? I think you're up next if you'd like to go.
Sorry,
Oh,
I thought I'd turned the ringer off on all my phones, but clearly I didn't. Oh, dear. Jai Baba, everyone. I love the stories. They're just amazing. And yes, thanks for everything. My first introduction to Meheru was after Martin and I got married. And it's my goddaughter. Hold on one second.
Of course it's
Okay.
a goddaughter.
She's my goddaughter. Yeah, anyway, that's another story. So anyway, we went on our first trip to India and I was very nervous, to say the least. I was sad. I missed Meheru just by this much. And anyway, we went to Meheru the first time, and Meheru, along with Dr. Goher and a few others, were sitting on the porch, and Shelley, I believe, was there as well. And she presented Martin and I with a picture of Baba that I guess she picked out pictures for the newlyweds to give to them the first time they came. So, and she was just so lovely. I was so nervous. And she just kind of, that calmness, but strength, like she was strong, really strong. So then as time went on, I got to go to Meheru a lot and give treatments. And I was just so grateful for that. And in 1999, I went to India because I was going to be turning, 1998, because in 99, I was going to be turning 50. And I'd never done anything on my own before. And it was time to be adventurous. So I did. And it was quite the experience for a month and going to Meheru and so on and so forth. Anyway, something happened and I ended up not well for the last, Martin had come to, we were going to return together for 2 weeks. So I ended up staying in the infirmary. And so the day before we were to leave, we were out at Meheru. Nobody else was out there. They allowed us to come out. And I'm standing in Mara and Monty's room, and I'm looking at everything going, I may never get here again. You know, what if I don't ever get here? I need to take a picture in my mind of all of these things. And I was so grateful for every moment that I had had out there. I did not know that Meheru was standing behind me. I did not. I was so absorbed in my own stuff. And anyway, I turned around to leave, and there she was. And I said, oh, Meheru, what if I can never come back? You know, what will I do? And she said, don't worry. If Baba wants you back here, you'll be back. You'll be back. And she gave me a gift that, and I can't remember what this was called, but it was, I think it was from Australia, but I'm not positive. And it was just kind of like a necklace, and it had little dried flowers all around it. Well, seeds, I think. And she said, this is from Baba's, where he sits at the table. It's been sitting there, and, you know, take care of that. And it was like, oh my. It was like she had read, some of the words she said to me was like she had been reading my mind on where I was at, that I was falling down this well. So another story, we had this dog, because Meheru was a dog lover, and we had this golden retriever who had a very, very thick coat. And we had a very bad winter up here in Canada, lots of snow. And the dog, his name was Bear, and he had all these snowballs all over him. And apparently the Mandali quite liked bringing that picture out and looking at Bear in his snowball outfit. And then in 2007, I'm pretty sure it was 7, Shelley had asked if I would go and help with Arna Visits Care for 3 months. So of course I said, yes, I will come. And it was, as any of you know, it's nerve-wracking. You don't want to do the wrong thing or whatever. But Meheru, I was nervous around Meheru because I didn't want to do anything wrong. And like a few others have said, you know, she would, you know, just shine you a little bit, you know, when you didn't quite do things right. Or she would test you to do things, you know, and if you did that right, then you got to do something else. And I had, unfortunately, I'm a dog lover, I had dogs all my life, but Rolly, the black dog, and I, not from that trip, but from even before, we didn't have the best relationship. We had got off on the wrong foot. Anyway, as the 3 months went by, things got better, of course. But anyway, when I would go out, initially she had said, take one of these sticks that was outside of her bedroom area. And so I did. And then one morning I was sleeping in Rana's room, and then Meheru came out, and she just looked at me and said, you don't need that anymore. And that was it. And I knew it, you know, like she had that presence about her. And yeah, like many stories here, I learned so many things from Meheru on how to really love Baba. Yeah. Jai Baba. Thank you.
Wendy, thank you. Beautiful stories. Thank you so much. Jai Baba. Kristen, I don't know if you have found that photo that you were talking about, Pumpkin House, if you'd like to share it. This might be a good time.
See. Okay, just a sec. I have to.
Sure, take your time, hon.
Things kind of moved along after that, but
Yeah, sorry, I got lost.
yeah, that's fine. No problem. I'm glad they did.
Yeah. Lost with Baba.
So you mean I could screen share now?
Yes, you should be able to.
Yeah, 1 sec.
Yeah, all right, I'm just watching.
Okay. All right. So this is a picture I was looking for before. So this is, here we are in front of Pumpkin House. I know it's not the most flattering picture of anyone involved, but the reason I wanted to show it is that it's so indicative, for me, it's so indicative of the life and that period. So Meheru loved going to the markets and going to all the little shops, and she loved when the fruit and vegetable sellers would come by and you hear their calls from way down, from way far away. You'd hear their calls, and the fishmonger too. And some of us rather dreaded the arrival of the fishmonger because, of course, the fish had to be cleaned. But Meheru, being very generous, she always would want to take a treat of pomfret back to her Meherazad family. So I know this is the last morning we're leaving for Ahmednagar. And the way that I know that for sure is, if you can see the arrow, what Meheru has in her hand, which is the rope. Okay, so the rope, that means that Meheru has taken down her clothesline, which is probably the first thing that went up when we got there. And anywhere that she would go, that would be one of the first things she liked to do if she could, was string up a clothesline. And I realized it's so touching to me because she was the one who was given the privilege of washing Baba's clothes, and all her life with him, she did that. And Mera allowed it, and Baba actually asked Mera's permission, and Mera liked the idea. So Meheru got that job. Anyway, so I'm sure that in Baba's time, that would be one of the first things she did, was when they would arrive somewhere new, would be to look for the spot where she could hang the clothesline. Anyway, that's why I wanted to share this photo.
Beautiful. All right, if you click on stop sharing, we'll.
Right.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. Jai Baba. Judy. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, everyone. I actually wasn't planning to share anything because many of you have had much longer and deeper experiences than I with Meheru. But I'll blame this one on Kristen. She encouraged me. And interestingly enough, I have a sort of a segue story to her clothesline. So in 1991, in the fall, I was over on, Baba had been calling me to Meherazad, and this was the beginning of my years, though I didn't at the time know they would turn into years of
having the opportunity to live and work over there. But this was the first season. And while I was there, John Stout, who at the time was president of the LA group, came up to me and said, Judy, do you have the authority on behalf of the Seattle Baba group to invite Meheru to come to Seattle? And I thought for, I don't know, 20 or 30 seconds, you know, and it was like, yeah, everybody loves Meheru, and some in particular, Paula in particular, was very close. And I thought nobody would object. And we have no officers. We're this, you know, free flowing, let Baba do it kind of group. And so I said, sure. And he said, great, because we've been trying to, our board has decided we want to invite her to be the main speaker in '93 at the LA Sahavas. So he and I went together and officially invited Meheru to come to the West, which was how she ended up doing her world tour. She, you know, decided, hey, if I'm going any place, I'm going every place. And as many people have suggested, how adventuresome and how much she loved nature and so forth. So for our Seattle group, we were hosting Meheru immediately after the LA Sahavas in the middle of July. And July 15th, that week, is statistically the driest week of the year in Seattle. As most of you probably know, you can depend upon rain almost any week of the year in Seattle. So we had just the best time, and we decided to do a Sahavas and have a group camp at Camano Island State Park out on Puget Sound, on the water, in the pines, and we would all camp out together, and Meheru would love that. So she comes to Seattle, arrives late afternoon or early evening, because I know it was dark by the time I arrived. It's about a 2.5 hour drive up to Camano Island from the airport in Seattle. And it rained cats and dogs. It was monsoon rain all the way from the airport for that 2.5 hour drive. She was going to stay at Paula's house. I was going to camp out in the backyard and do the cooking, not my forte, but it needed to be done. So in my car, I was alone in my car with all the luggage. And so she had arrived at Paula's beforehand, and the long and the short story is it was decided that because of the soggy conditions that were not going away, we shifted the whole Sahavas back to Seattle. And Meheru actually asked me, Judy, can I come stay at your house? Well, my house that I'm looking at, almost the whole house from one point, is a very small, humble abode. And I had not cleaned at all because other people wanted to have her for tea and have her for dinner, and and I thought, I get to be over at Meheru. I'll let everybody else do. Only Baba knew that my secret hope was I would have liked to invite her once to come for tea. Only that. And as Erich would say, it fell to my lot to host Meheru for the longest time on her world tour. of any place she stayed. And from reports that she gave me over the years afterwards, she was very happy there. And the reason that she was happy is that, among other things, I'm probably the only person in Seattle that has a clothesline outside where she, and buckets in my basement like they have at Marizod, and she could wash out her own laundry, which was what made her happy. And going to my local open air produce store and buying all these vegetables and cooking. At that point, Christy Pearson was accompanying her on her US part of the tour. And so she cooked vegetable soup and fed it to us, you know, in my humble little kitchen and things like that. We went for walks. Never once did the sun come out the whole time she was here. She never saw Mount Rainier, this absolutely gorgeous mountain that you see from all over Seattle. But we had a lovely time together, and took ferry boat rides, and then went down to Portland. Betty Lohman could tell you more about the Portland part. I think I drove her down, and then we camped at a place called Baba House and so forth. But at any rate, so this is actually more about me than it is Meheru, but she was happy in the simplicity and humble abode that I'm in. Someone, was it Jeff Wolverton? Someone once said that it was Jim Frasino said, Judy, your house reminds me of Baba's house in India. And, so I don't know. Anyway, it's just a little funky little place that got blessed by Baba through Meheru's being here. And then of course, he blessed me even more for the next 13 seasons being able to live over at Meherabad and so forth. Thank you, Baba. Thank you, Baba. And thank you, Meheru. And, I also, the story about thresholds, and maybe one of the differences between being a pilgrim and being a resident over at Meherabad is there is a sting that comes with the correction when you're a resident. And at one point I was, the porch was completely filled. I'd maybe been showing someone Mara's room or something. Anyway, I came out and I had 1 foot over the threshold onto the porch and 1 foot in Baba's house. And Meheru turned around and it's like be on one side or the other. And she made it very clear not to be over a threshold. And yeah, it's so these impressions, and to this day, I mind it, as so many people have been saying. I mean, by mind, I'm aware of it and remember Baba in the process. So anyway, that's my vignette of her time here in the Northwest.
So beautiful, Judy. Thank you so much. So sweet. Well, let's hear Baba's Betty here. She must have some Portland information.
Yes, oopsie, Jay Baba, everybody. Really, my stories are, can you hear me? Yeah. They're Jim and Jean Wilson's stories. They were the proprietors of this place, Baba House, which we bought from them. And this Sahavas happened when they were here. there are a couple of little stories that I remember. One, we have a hill with a lot of great big Douglas firs, and Jim had strung up a long swing that went way out over a hillside. And Meheru wanted to try it out. And so she so she goes up and Jean at the bottom of the hill is thinking, oh my God, I hope she doesn't jump off the swing. And sure enough, that's what she did. She swung way out, jumped, went down on the hillside, and then kind of stumbled her way down. And she was caught by I don't know who. And Jean said to her, "Oh, Meheru, I thought I should warn you." And Meheru said, "That was Baba telling you, and why didn't you? You should have warned me." So that was one little thing. Another was that she was very mechanically minded, and she was intrigued with the post hole digger that Jim had, which is a contraption that has two handles and a metal. You dig holes for fences with it. So when Jim went back to India one summer to work on the tomb, and they decided to send a post hole digger with him. So they took off the big pole, so he had this clunky metal, like a double shovel, that he brought over there. And he had it in his room when he first got there. And he said he woke up and there was he said it was a crate. It was a small snake in his room, had come into his room. He grabbed the post hole digger and threw it and killed the snake with that post hole digger that he had there. So that was that story. And another one was, we live near a beautiful abbey, Catholic, Mount Angel, it's called, a Catholic seminary. And and Meheru wanted to go to a service. They had Vespers evening services there. So that sounded wonderful, and we all got into cars and drove over to the abbey with Meheru, and it was a nice service. But her comment was later, she said, it was kind of dry. So that was her. And it's funny, I don't have a lot of my stories with Meheru. I do remember one time in India, we were kind of both heading toward each other in the garden, and we just had this little moment where we were kind of walking. I don't know, it was just funny, just walking with elbows, walking, and we both kind of got into that little happy mood of doing that. So yeah, I guess I'll stop there. Yeah. I have a kind of longish story that came from Tavern Talk. It's about Rolly, her dog, and I think I'll just say that it said that she loved. I don't think I'll read the whole story, but a bit of it. Rolly was born on Meherzad property 12 years ago as one of 8 puppies. And she like a little black bear. And he was round and roly-poly. And during the last few years of her life, she became preoccupied with his care so much that even though he had slept outdoors for years, she created a bed in her room for him to sleep on at night. And it seemed that this bed grew in proportion and elegance daily. Even during the summer heat, Mary was so concerned that the aging Rolly be comfortable that she would cover him with an old skirt of hers at night, checking often to see that it was still spread over him. So anyway, I'll stop there. So, Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba. Thank you so much. Beautiful. I could just picture her on that swing. I could just see it. Oh, God. Baba. Jeff. Hey.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Well, I used to go to India every year, and on one time when I was there, it was I think the late 70s. Gordon Campbell was there, and Gordon Campbell was very close with Meheru, and Meheru was the one that did the maintenance and repairs and supervised the garden at Meherazad, and Gordon had great talents. I mean, he was a professional builder and he could do all sorts of things. But on this trip, he kind of brought me in to do all these repairs with him. Now I didn't know what I was doing, but I just kind of followed what he told me and everything. And so for the rest of that stay, about a month or so, I helped him. And then what happened is after that, Meheru thought that I was a maintenance person at the center here in Myrtle Beach. So every time I would get there, she'd say, "Well, Jeff, I'll give you a few days rest, and then I've got some work projects for you to do." Now, I didn't realize this for many years, that somehow that she thought I was some maintenance guy. So I had to kind of learn on the job some of these things, and it's not easy to do things in India. I mean, it's like you can't if you go to an Indian hardware store, you can't just go in and say, "Well, I'd like some caulk, I'd like some plaster, I'd like some grout, and this is the I want to match this color for paint." And then in hardware stores here, they make it up for you. Over there, they just give you some pigments, and you have to kind of figure out how to reproduce things. And I had a devil time trying to reduce these colors. And of course, Meheru would be off somewhere, and whenever she came over, she could kind of go through and mix these colors. But if you try to mix a color with maybe 4 or 5 other colors and try to get a precise color that matched what's there at Meherazad, it was crazy. It was difficult. But anyway, I would get out there to Meherazad early, and I would set up, and then I got a view of the women's side. I was usually working at the main house or the other house, that little cottage. And I had kind of a bird's eye view of what was going on. And one of the things that struck me right from the beginning is all the women mandali were so strong. They were like a balance of male and female qualities. The only one who wasn't that way was Mara, who was the perfect embodiment of the feminine. I mean, she was the most beautiful person I'd ever met. Most beautiful woman. But anyway, so they were strong, and of course, as you know, as we've shared here, Meheru was very strong and everything, but she was very sweet. She'd spell out what she wanted me to do, very matter-of-factly, and for the most part, I did all right. I broke a few things, but Mara kind of came to my aid. She, before Meheru could kind of jump on me, Mara was very sweet. She helped me out. But anyway, here's another thing from that vantage point of being in the, over on the women's side, I could witness the women, mandali, and like I say, I would get there early, and about from 8:30 to 9, the mandali would be like this. They'd be kind of bent over. And then by 9:30 to 10, they were like this. And by, 11 o'clock, when the pilgrims came, they were upright, and they would be there and greet everybody and all of that. And then after the buses left in the afternoon, they would come out, and they would all be bent over. And Meherazad became like an ashram about 12,000 feet up in the Himalayas. Absolutely, for me, this is my experience. It was so quiet, and very little talking amongst themselves, just minimal. but everybody was in a very absorbed state. And I felt that they're absorbed in Baba so that they can regenerate for the next day, to greet all of us pilgrims. And Meheru she'd bring me treats and fresh bakri and chai and everything like that. And I worked sometimes harder over there than I did over here in Myrtle Beach. And I was usually exhausted by the time I got there, but she thought that I was this maintenance guy, which I was not. But anyway, so on one of the occasions, she'd have me she'd play badminton right there in the garden with people. And I think a number of you have played, and she'd get me to come in there and play badminton, leave the work and all that. But on one time I was there, and I had 3 days left. And I was thinking, oh boy, I hope I can have this last 3 days at Meheru and just rest up and everything. And I came out to Meheru and Meheru says, I've got one last project for you, Jeff. I'm thinking, oh my God, but what could I say? So she takes me around the back of the house, and there's this bath stall that's really run down. It's, the paint is chipped, it needs plastering, caulking and everything. And I've got 3 days, and I'm there with her, and I'm having to decide, should I do just a cosmetic job or shall I do an in-depth job? I think I better do an in-depth job. And she gave me a couple of the servant boys. So we are in there. I got 3 days to do this, and we're cranking away and sanding and everything like that. On the second day, I say to one of the servant boys, who uses this shower, this bath stall? And they said, this is where Meheru and Mani take their baths. Oh my God. Because what I realized is that, the front side of the house where we were all received, everything is nicely painted and everything is all there for us. And they're in the back and they get the low priority. We got everything and they just made do with things, and I realized that. But, the beautiful thing is, there was nothing spiritual about this work or nothing transcendent. It was just very mundane work, but it was so natural. And like I say, I always found the mandali just like my favorite aunts and uncles. And, what a beautiful thing, just doing ordinary things that they did for Baba to keep this place up. But anyway, so Jai Baba, I think that's all I have to say. Yeah.
Well, that was beautiful. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Ruthie, can I say
Oh.
something quick?
I can ask you, certainly, Nan.
Yeah.
Jai
Yeah.
Baba.
Just a little thing. I also got to do work in Meheru and mix paint with Meheru, but the thing that touched me the most is my mother came over there and she was 89 in the year 2000. And my mother's always thought of herself as an agnostic, but very kind person, very gracious. And Gary Kleiner's father was there at the same time, 89. For some odd reason, there were 6 89-year-olds there at the same time. It was a very good trip. It's a wonderful trip. But Meheru came up to me and said, your mother's a real Baba lover. And I said, well, she thinks of herself as an agnostic. And oh no, she's a real Baba lover. And it was so, she said, the way she asks questions, the way she treats people, the way she listens to questions. She listed several. It was so affirming because I knew my mother was a real, what I would consider the qualities that I would, but that's not how she thinks of herself, So anyway, it was just a very great, she took the time to say that to me, and it was very, very kind.
Yeah.
Very insightful. Very insightful. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Beautiful, Nan. Yeah, the bathroom story was pretty amazing too, Jeff. Thank you.
Yeah.
And how did your mom what did she have to say about Meheru?
Oh, she loved it. She wanted to come back every year. She felt it was the most loving place she'd ever been. And Baba did a funny thing of she's very skeptical of like astrology or anything woo-woo or anything like that. And he had lots of doctors and public health people and people that she could understand their professions, you know, more than I've ever been there with that many doctors. And they had the wildest Baba stories. She learned, Viola did me this great service of asking my Baba story in front of my mother, which I never would have told my mother otherwise. In the hotel in Bombay, she had no jet lag. She wanted to see everything in Bombay. She wanted to see everything. And anyway, so my mother knew the principle of a Baba story. She started asking everyone's Baba story, and they had the wildest Baba stories, you know, being thrown up and ceiling to the devils and just every woo thing you could imagine. But my mother would smile and acknowledge as if this was what she was used to hearing all the time.
Amazing.
She was quite a lady, bro.
So that was a
Beautiful
gift.
soul.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Wayne?
Just
Hi.
before Wayne goes, I've put into the chat the main couplet that Laurel was referring to. Jotoko kata boin tahi boin tapul, tuko pul ke pul hen, vako vain tishul. Lay flowers in the path of those who lay thorns in yours. For you, those flowers are soft petals of flowers, but for them, the flowers are tridents, three-pronged spears.
Thank you, Rennie. Thank you. If anybody wants to copy that, it's not hard to do. Go ahead, Wayne.
Thank you. This
Jai
is
Baba.
a wonderful program. It's great to see everyone. And yes, on the glasses, Cindy. Very true. I have a short vignette. I remembered. It's a lovely, sweet memory. It's from the late 70s. I was sitting on the veranda at Meheru on one of the green benches right near the blue bus chatting with another pilgrim, an American woman. And Meheru comes out, you know, the walkway by the blue bus that goes over to the garden and the women's side. She sticks her head around and we're right there. And she looks at us and she goes, come here, follow me. Because we were the available two. And so we followed her. And it's interesting you mentioned adventure, because here was a little mini adventure, it seemed. And we had no idea where we were going and what we were doing. And we went to the kitchen, where they were cooking, which is a separate little cottage right next to the main house. And she said, we're making bakri. And I want to show you how we make bakri. And so she squatted down on the ground, I squatted down, and the cook was there. I assume a woman from Pimple Gown, all squatting on the ground over a fire, just an open fire or a charcoal. It was, you know, charcoal or fire. And she explained how they made bakri and how the millet, and she about harvesting the millet. And it was just so interesting and so natural. And it made me feel like such a part of the family, which has been happening all the time anyway. It was just a sweet little moment. So we made bakri, they made the bakri, we tasted the bakri, and Meheru was so present in explaining it. And then it was over after 15 or 20 minutes, and we went back, and that woman and I don't remember her name now, we had a nice little story from that day, and we really enjoyed it. And it was just very spontaneous and natural and very Meheru. Jai Baba, thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. That was great. That was great. Thank you so much. Jai Baba. Paula.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I had to change computers. The other one was weird. She did, this is like an addendum to Judy's story, because it was my heart's desire with my whole heart that Meheru come here. And I don't know who invited her first, but I did invite her, you know, to come, which is why she wound up on Camino Island, because she said yes. So the day she came, it was, I can't remember who picked her up from the airport. It might have been me, but we got to Cindy and Austin's and there was a lovely luncheon and all that. And then to drive out here is another 60, 65 miles north of Seattle. And it was like Noah's Ark. It was so wet. There was so much rain. And she's like in the back seat, you know, like, what is this and where are we going? So we finally get out here and it just didn't stop. That rain was amazing. So, and the original plan was for to have a Sahavas at the state park, which is only about 3 minutes from my house. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. It's like you go down to the state park and you look across Puget Sound to Whidbey Island, and it's just beautiful out here. So she stayed the night, and I had kind of shoved my husband and my boys away, you know, you can't be here now. And she didn't like that. She said, this isn't right. So it's like my whole heart's desire was to have her, and Baba answered that desire. You know, she spent the night and she was here for that time, and we had that time together. And I also had made up my mind before she ever came that if she wanted to change anything, that was fine with me, you know, whatever she wanted. And so I remember that the next day, you know, she sat on the bed with me and she held my hand and she said, you know, we've been talking about this, but this is really inconvenient for everybody because there's no way they could camp at the state park. It was too wet. But what did happen was that day, the next day, the sun did come out and it was lovely. It was a lovely day. So before going back to Seattle, we went down to the state park. And it's the only time I think that Meheru put her feet in the Pacific Ocean, which is the Puget Sound. And Christy was going crazy because she's out there teetering on rocks. You know, it's like it's Meheru. And but that felt really significant to me at that time and now also. And something I really wanted, it's like, oh, Baba, we have bald eagles. We have beautiful, beautiful big bald eagles. And I really wanted her to see a bald eagle. So before we're leaving, you know, before it's time to go, and it's a rocky beach too, you know, and it's got, you know, logs and all this stuff all over it. It's the Northwest. So it was like, I finally thought, oh, Baba, I guess that's not going to happen. She was standing next to me and I looked up and like just a couple feet above our heads, this amazing, huge bald eagle is right above our heads. And he's on this branch. And I said, Meheru, look. And it was like he was there just for her because at that moment he spread his wings, this huge wingspan, and he just flew away in front of her. And I was like, wow, thank you, Baba. Another thing she did, then I'll tell you that in a minute. But then I wanted her to meet somebody specifically who worked at the market, who's one of my best friends. And it was getting to be the end of her shift. And I thought we would stop on our way out of town, but I didn't know if Meheru would get to meet her. Well, she did. And that was important to me. You know, it was Baba orchestrated everything. But, and then we went to a beautiful garden. And I had never been there before or since, but it was a beautiful garden and Meheru loved it. There was a little dog there named Dr. Doolittle. And she loved this little dog. But it was a beautiful garden and Meheru said, this person knows what they're doing. They really know what they're doing. But the other thing was, so then we did go off to Seattle, and then the rest of the Sahavas happened all around Seattle. But one thing she did too at the state park was she picked up a couple rocks and she gave me these rocks. They're just rocks. They look like ordinary rocks. But this was, oh, sorry, that's my camera. A couple months later, so this was in July, and September 13th, my house burned down. And I knew where I knew where everything was. I knew where Baba's hair was. I knew where everything was in my house. So everything is like gone. But I came back and I found those rocks. And they'd really gone through the fire and they had all this stuff attached to them. They were like molten, kinds of things. And it just, it was, and when I told her about the fire, she was very sweet. She sent us money to help us, get back on our feet. And she said, I hope I didn't cause that. And I kind of wondered, but it didn't matter. It was like, it was Baba's gift no matter what. But anyway, I'm so grateful that she came, and it was my heart's desire, and Baba answered it. And so did she. So, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, how fortunate you Northwestern women were to have that kind of an opportunity. So wonderful.
She did stop me. I remember in the hall in my house. I don't for the life of me remember the whole story, but she stopped me and she said, and she said, Meheru, she saw Mera at Meherazad after she dropped her body. She saw her in the hall or someplace. And it was, I don't know, it was just really significant and sweet. And she did miss her. Somebody asked her once if she missed Mera, and she said, I miss Baba. But we know she missed Mera. Jai Baba. Oh dear. Oh my.
Jai Baba. All right, Rainey, your hand is still up, so I don't know if you had something you wanted to say.
Yes, can you hear me now? I've moved to this other,
Yes,
I ran out of juice.
yes, just one other thing. Someone had asked if you would share more about, if there was more, I guess, to share about Meheru's mother, Rainey.
It's best to watch that film by the Brusmans on Meheru. It's very involved and it's very clarifying to compared to the hushed whispers of insanity are completely gone once you see that film. There's no such thing.
What's the name of the film?
Probably postpartum depression from having 6 children in a row. I mean, it's very beautiful film. Jeff might know the name of it, of Meheru that is in the Brustman collection.
Yes, and if anyone does, they can put it in the chat.
Yes, thank you.
Finds it and knows the name of it. It's magnificent.
Thanks, Rainey.
Okay, thanks, Rainey.
One thing, because they were talking about Meheru coming here, I somehow ended up lots of places where Meheru went in Australia, for example. So one thing in her invisibility program, don't laugh, Kristen, in her invisibility program, for example, we were raising the flag at Avatar's Abode and artists were to be sung. So she asked me what would happen in a row, what would take place, because I go there every June. And from Berkeley. And so I told her the order of things, what happens then. So she was standing with the board and trust and everything. But suddenly somebody dashed over to her to suggest something, I gather. So I decided to come in from the back in case. I didn't know why. And suddenly, this person then went away, and Meheru turned around and said, don't say I said, but tell her no. Oh dear. Okay. It was like that. There were a lot of things like that. Kristen can tell you, and Cindy, people around Meheru a lot. So I had to tell this person, no, you can't do that. That's not in the order of things or the program. And oh boy, she didn't talk to me for at least 24 hours, but the love at the anniversaries harvest had all vanished, but they were the sort of things she would do. So when she came to one of maybe it was one of 2 trips, her trip to the Bay Area, she stayed she went to Louisa's, and Kristen was here. A lot of functions took place. Muir Woods, where Barbara looked at the tree and said, when I was Rama, some of these trees were here, and Mary wanted to know all about the nature aspects of Barbara in California, which was very involved, Barbara in San Francisco Bay Area. But anyway, it came about that she was invited to, no, I won't abridge myself. She was invited to the Sufi Center. Now, the Sufi Center is for Sufis, and it would have been a closed meeting for them. So she said, no, I'll just have a great big meeting for everybody. And this meant scrambling around and hiring this church to house all of the Sufis and all of us and everybody that came in from everywhere appropriately. So I said, well, my Love Street singers can sing something. And she said, they have a choir too, so you can all sing together. So, okay, people who've been put on point in red toe shoes, I was on point, right? So I just decided to be like a director of our choir that I had studied with and learned so much from, and became the director and approached them about singing with us. And we went out to Sufism. We taught them the Gujarati Yati. We learnt one of their songs. They learnt two of the Love Street Singers songs, May Peace and Peace, Here is the Lord, and very difficult things. They can sing, those people, and with sheet music and everything. And it was a big, a big deal to be together. And Meheru did this. She did it. And there we all were, all in this great big chapel, and singing these incredible things. I'm telling you, she got the giggles when I made them parade up, onto the risers, because I felt like it was a big moment. And she just kept going like, how many of you are there? Is there anyone left in the audience? And she wanted the program to be longer because she didn't want to talk for too long in this huge situation, but she created it. But I got the blame for some of it and of coordinating these two choirs together. So she had that, even if she was behind the scenes, she was pushing somebody out there to be in front of the scenes, but she was still making sure it was as she knew things to be around Barbara, not as things were or any differences or anything, as she knew things were to be around Barbara. If the program was set, the program was set, unless Barbara called it off and he wasn't here. And if the program was separating people, that wasn't going to happen. So just that type of strength and decisiveness was a great impression on all of us, I feel. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Thank you so much, Rainey. There is, I did see that you can look up Brustman film, and it is, oh, someone has put something in there. Okay, so the video is in the chat. You guys can copy it and send it to yourself on the email and then look up the film. I just want to say one quick thing. I met Meheru when I was in India in 1985. I was leaving that day. It was probably 2 hours before it was time to go. And somehow she was, I think someone said to me, Meheru is in the garden. So we were at the Pilgrim Center, the old Pilgrim Center, and she was in the garden on the women's side. And they said, they probably prompted me to go and sit with her. When I went to India, a very dear friend said to me, buy a camera, go up to every single Mandali member and ask them if you can have a photo taken with them. And so I did. And that last day in the garden with Meheru, someone took, I think, 3 pictures of Meheru and I. And I just remember sitting next to her, and I don't know that she said a word to me verbally, but her intensity, her incredible ability to see who I was just sitting next to me for a very brief few moments was something that has just stamped itself into my heart. At some point, I couldn't bear it anymore. So I just started to weep. And so there's a photo of me in this state of dazed weeping, but it's kind of blurry, so you can't really tell. But just having that opportunity to sit next to her at the end of my visit and to just feel her in silence for, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes. I'm just so grateful to Baba for giving me that insight into that amazingly beautiful soul. And so I'm just grateful to everyone sharing. Paula has one more thing, and then we're going to probably close because we're coming up on 3 hours. Okay,
Yeah,
Paula.
this was kind of like that, Ruthie. We were on the ferry coming back from Bremerton, and I was sitting like here, and Meheru was right behind me in another seat, but she was right behind me. And just that awareness of that support, it just felt so wonderful. I just loved her so much. And it was like just having her there is the greatest comfort and support. And she was so strong, but wow, what dimension she had. You know, she was a warrior. One person in our group said she reminded him of Geronimo. She was a warrior, you know, and you could feel it, but it just felt that wonderful feeling of just, you know, it was delicious.
Thank you, Paula. Yes, it was. And thank you everyone for all your shares today. What a jewel in our beloved's crown she is. And we were fortunate enough to see so many facets. So if we just take a moment of silence, and then we can all say Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Jai Baba, if you'd like to unmute yourselves. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Avatar Meher
Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Oh, Meher Baba Ki Jai. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah.
Thank
You
you.
know, another thing she said to me before I left India, I came out of Meheru's room and I said, Meheru, I want to go home, but I never want to go home. And she said, that's because that's your home, but this is your home. That's where we belong.
Kristen, thank you so much. You
Thanks,
brought
Kristen. Thank you, Ruth, and Karen, and Dana, and everybody.
And of course, somebody said, oh, ask Kristen to tell about this travels through Europe. And I thought, wow, yeah. But, you know, I don't know. You may be exhausted by now.
It's late now, but and there are
How
many.
about one vignette, Kristen, from your time with Meheru in Europe?
Okay, so all right, quickly. In Switzerland, you know that Baba stopped there on the way back after the 52, after being in America in 52, and he was recovering there at Hetty Merton's home I think it was called Soldano. I might not have that right. Anyway, it had been sold. Of course, it wasn't in the Mertens family anymore, and was owned by someone we didn't know who, and not a Baba person. And Meheru said, "Oh, I'd like to see that. It would be nice to see that, to remember staying there with Baba at that time." Anyway, we got to staying with Granny Trudman.
We've got an echo. Do you have another device right nearby?
Yes.
All right. No, that's okay. Go ahead. You were saying you stayed.
Okay, so we were staying with Vreni Trudman, and Vreni I think it was just a couple of days before Meheru arrived, noticed in the newspaper that there was going to be an art show where in Soldano, open to the public. So Meheru was thrilled. Clearly Baba's direct orchestration there. So we went in, we saw the art show, and then we started, as discreetly as possible, poking around the whole rest of the house. Anyway, yeah, Baba was in charge the whole way.
Oh, beautiful, Kristen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks so much for all your shares, Kristen, and everybody. And oh, we were so blessed with Meheru and all the others that Baba left with us for 20, 30, 40 years.
Pulling up.
How blessed we are.
Yeah.
That was 3 hours.
I know, a lot of times.
Yeah.
It's
Jay
funny 'cause
Baba.
at the beginning, it always looks like there's not going to be that many.
Jay Baba.
Jay Baba.
It's
Thank you,
fortunate
everyone.
when Meheru would often say, Baba abhorred vagueness. And
Oh, Rainey, you just somehow got muted.
Meheru abhorred vagueness. I must have heard a dozen times say, look, make up your mind. It reminds me of the Mani story. Don't stand at the threshold. You're either in or you're out. That's what Baba used to say. And she'd make a decision and she'd stick by her decision. But also, if the decision was too harsh or turned out not to be appropriate, she took her feminine prerogative and changed her mind. And then she'd be decisive on the second decision. She wasn't stubborn in that sense, but she did not like vagueness.
Well, again, thank you, everyone. Karen, Kristen, Dana, Cindy.
It was lovely.
Is that all?
Thank you for the live show
What I said?
tonight.
Everyone that shared.
I mean, I didn't
Jay Baba.
have any exchange. I mean, I had thousands and thousands of exchanges with her, but nothing.
Yeah.
Jai Baba, thank you, everyone. It was good to hear each person. I'm so grateful. And yeah, I love the story of Meheru making sure all were included. I remember once a car was going down the hill, and I had thought I was included and went to get in, and somebody gave me the. So I hopped out, and Meheru saw this. She didn't like it, and she said, "You come in." So it was lovely to get that lift down the hill by that awareness, of it's not a ladder we're on. It's a circle we're in, even if it's also true that there are those so close to Baba. But my experience was those so close to Baba remembered each one in some way. And I loved seeing that here today in people closer to me who remembered others. So grateful. sending love and gratitude and thank you each person who shared. Jai Baba.
Also, let's not forget we have her exquisite handwriting. All Meheru's
Yes.
letters were Meheru's handwriting. And so we have that, and often a little PS where she would speak in the first person. And
Yes, any letter Mara sent out, Meheru wrote it.
Yeah.
Just in case somebody didn't know what you were.
Yeah, her handwriting. And I remember after Meheru died, she made sure I got this little envelope, which I have in my acid-free files and things. And it was a little envelope and it had on it, tell them that, in this not very good writing in pencil. Yes, Meheru, what was to Meheru, tell them that, but also tell Rainey, I pray for Franey every night. But it's in Meheru's writing, which I'd never seen before. So if anyone wants to compare handwriting, I have that little envelope in the 50 or so Meheru letters here of the Mandali's distress and surprise when I had a disabled child, very involved. And but Meheru, the way she would write to you, but the way she would phrase, the way Meheru would write to you is how Meheru would speak. Like she didn't exist once she was writing for Meheru, she was writing how Meheru would have written it. I felt.
Well, Kristen, I really appreciate the way you set the tone today.
Oh,
magnificent.
Thank you.
Yes. It's exactly what we needed was to have that brought forth of what a woman in the background she really was, what she wanted to be. Yeah. And served that way for years. It's an example of how to do invisible service, I guess. Huh? Well, I'm not sure. What time is it there now?
1:53.
Oh dear, you must go to bed soon. It's hard to go to bed after one of these, though.
Oh, wait, no, I said 1:53 on the East Coast.
Okay, what time is it there? Are you on the, where are you?
I'm in New York.
Yes. No, I pictured you in India this whole time.
In spirit, yes, but no, I'm actually on the East Coast.
Okay. Well, all right. There's 18 of us left, and it's so hard to leave.
So I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
Hey, Ruthie, are you willing to show us that photo?
What photo?
You
honey?
in the garden.
You and Meheru.
Oh, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, there were, I actually put two of them in there. I don't have the one where I'm crying because, as I said, it was so foggy, and here they are. So here, let's see. Oh, Dana Ferry. Let me see here.
Thank you, Ruthie. You're sweet.
Yeah, I can't believe. I think I look exactly the same. I guess I don't. Well, yeah, there we are.
Oh, that is lovely.
That's a beautiful photo, and you can't tell you're blurry-eyed in days.
No, I'm not
Blurry-eyed.
blurry-eyed here. And I love this one because I moved towards her. And I think there's one where we kissed.
That's a beautiful picture of her, both of you, but
Well,
Meheru
look at
looks-
her. I mean, just look at her. She saw me. That woman just saw me. That's how it felt, that she saw me the whole time.
You look extremely happy.
Yeah, it was hard to leave India, but yeah.
When did she pass away? I don't know if I met her or not.
2012.
And I did meet her probably. She would have been at Meherazad, right?
Yes.
So in 2005, 6, 7, 8, she would have been there.
Oh, yes.
So I probably met her, but I just can't recall. That's terrible. Anyway.
Yeah. So many beautiful images just Baba gave of her. I think one of my favorites, I certainly like that Paul, I forget.
Kumar.
Thank you. And I also thought that this was one of my faves. And I think Dana might have sent this to me. 1 second. Sorry to be kind of scrolling through them all. Well, it just doesn't want to show, and that's okay. It must be up above. Yeah.
Can I
just
share?
have-
Oh, sorry.
Yes, please.
It's Wendy. I remember, I don't remember what year it was, but I do remember that Kristen was there with Meheru, and we were walking up the hill to the Samadhi. And Martin and I, like, Meheru was walking like she was walking on air so fast. We could barely keep up. I'm sure Kristen had many of those, but for myself, it was like, wow, how do you walk that fast so gracefully?
Yeah, that's why I love, this is the photo I really thought was so extraordinary of her. I don't know what it is about it, but my goodness, what emotion, what grace. There's just, she's like a dancer, but I don't know how to describe it, but just the way she's moving.
Is that Meheru in the green top?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Sorry, I don't know.
Yes, that's all right. Yeah, I know, Elizabeth. It's an older photo of Meheru, but what a
Who
woman.
is the woman in white carrying the basket?
That's
Indira.
Hans Paul's wife. Hans Paul's wife.
Indira.
Right.
Indra.
Oh, I know her.
Yeah, no fuss, no muss. That's that posture and that stride. It's just, oh, this is nice. Let's go. It's like, and you'd run along trying to keep up. Like you'd see people with the umbrella trying to keep up with Baba. Was trying to keep up with the women was like that too.
Well, and it reminded me somehow of kind of a gypsy woman, of a free woman in the new life.
Right.
That movement was new. I could never walk like that. I could never move like that. I could never, you know what I mean? She just, it looked like the new life to me. So sweet, so beautiful.
She had a favorite song she always asked me for, and of all things, it was in 3/4, which I've since found out, you know, being alias Professor Rani Diddy. Indians love Dadra, you know, the 6 beats, because it's nearly all 4 beats like the West, you know. And it's that Sam Saunders song, Kristen. Oh, beloved, may her loveliest one and the most fair, sun in splendor, shining in all, love to delight and keep in thrall. One most loving, one most tender, one at whose feet we surrender, one who, like that. And she just loved this song. And other people would be singing beautiful, sad things and everything, and she'd look at me like, now. Get that in there, you know, cheer it up.
That's a great song.
But anyway, I had this one cheerful song, 3/4 by Sam Saunders.
So sweet.
Beautiful, Rainey. Lovely to hear.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It's time for meditation. We gotta go.
I love you all.
Love you.
Hey, Baba, everybody.
Hey, Baba.
Hey, Baba. Avatar, man, Baba.
Hey, Baba.
Hey.
Bye.
Love that, Meheru.
Hey, Baba.